Hello and welcome back to the Vicarage on this, the fourth Sunday after Easter. Today we remember Jesus' words, "I have come that they may have life, and life in all its fullness," and we reflect on what that means in our own lives. The Gospel reading is taken from John chapter 10, verses 1 to 10. "Very truly I tell you, if anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers." Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So again Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes out only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Words of Jesus. Today's parable, like many of Jesus' parables, is about sheep. He was preaching into a rural context. People understood sheep and goats, pastures and grazing, pens for keeping sheep safe. It reminds me of an incident a couple of years ago where some sheep got out of a field in Stannington because of a broken fence and were just about to wander onto the A1 when they were rescued by a farmer and the fence was mended. Sheep tend to do that. If they aren't in fences, they can wander off and do untold damage to themselves and other people. But the sheep in Jesus' parable today are not ordinary sheep. They represent you and me, those who follow Jesus, and the plight and decisions of the sheep often mirror the human condition. In today's reading, Jesus gives one of his lesser-known I am statements. Most of us know, "I am the light of the world," and "I am the good shepherd." But in this reading, Jesus says, "I am the gate of the sheep." Jesus as a gate is not necessarily the most accessible of images, something designed to keep us out, to keep us in, to be negotiated. But in Jesus' time, shepherds were literally gates. The shepherd would get all of his sheep into the pen and would then lay across the entrance to keep them safe. Jesus the gate is Jesus the protector, the guard, keeping us safe from harm. And there's more than that going on in this parable. Jesus not only keeps the sheep safe from harm, he also gives them the freedom to go out safely into the pastures and eat the grass, because they know him, they hear his voice, and they'll come back when they're called. Unlike others who come to the sheepfold to steal the sheep and let them out and cause them to be scattered, Jesus is the shepherd who they know. He gives the sheep freedom, and he also keeps them safe. He lets them out to freely graze in the pastures, safe in the knowledge that they will return when they hear his voice. The two issues of freedom and safety explored in this passage are very interesting ones at the moment. Governments across the world are seeking to balance these two basic needs, to give the people enough freedom to get them the basics they need, like food and exercise, and at the same time to keep them safe. Those of us living in countries like the UK who are used to high levels of freedom have rightly given up many of our freedoms so that the government can keep us safe. At the moment, we're very aware of the need for safety, and it outweighs the need for freedom. And perhaps that can give us a way into thinking about what Jesus is saying here. People need safety, and we also need freedom. Jesus says, "I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly." I wonder what that means to you. What does it mean to you to have abundant life? The answer will be different for each one of us. The type of freedom Jesus is offering is not the freedom to go off and do what we want, regardless of the needs and safety of others. The type of freedom he's offering is the one where it's clear where the source of safety is, so we can exercise freedom within that. The sheep know and trust the shepherd because they hear his voice. One of my favourite books about child development is Child of Our Time by Dr. Tessa Livingston. And one of its main messages is that children need roots and wings. They need to know where they come from, who they are, that they're loved no matter what. And that knowledge gives them the freedom to explore and develop and fly, knowing they have a secure base which will not let them go. Jesus is not telling the sheep how to live. He's not telling them when to come in and go out of the sheepfold or where to find grass. What he's doing is giving them the security of his presence and his love for them, so they can make their own choices, so they can go and find fresh pasture, knowing that they will hear his voice and he will call them home. Similarly, I remember one of the best teachers I ever had was Mr. French, who taught me A-level history. And I vividly remember sitting down in the first class in the lower sixth and him saying to us, "A-level history is not like GCSE history. I will not teach you about crop rotations and spinning jennies. In fact, you'll find that my lessons don't contain many facts for you to learn at all. You can look those up in your own time. Instead, in A-level history, I'm going to teach you how to ask the right questions, to do your own research. I'm not going to teach you history. I'm going to teach you to think like a historian." And I remember my friends and I were not convinced by this at all. We wanted facts that we could write down in the exam paper. We needed answers, not funny ideas about thinking like historians. But over the 2 years that Mr. French taught us, he had us converted. He taught us how much more fun history is when you think about it and argue about it and form your own conclusions. Mr. French was a natural-born teacher, not because he knew how to convey facts, but because he knew how to provide a context in which we could think and grow. To be a Christian is to be safe in the knowledge of God's love for us, knowing that there's nothing we can do to separate us from the love of God and his Son, Jesus Christ. To be a Christian is also to have the freedom to become the people he's called us to be, to step through the gateway of Christ's cross into a new world where we are no longer sheep easily satisfied with small securities, but children of God, free to be the people he's called us to be, so that we may live life in all its fullness. Amen.